What's up? So today is 8/5/2020. I know I look weird. I shaved today. Cool, right? So today I have news, even though it's Washington State news, it's just news in general. So Jay Inslee got reelected. Now there's people that don't like him. I don't like him. And I have my reasons, and my reasons are I think in this coronavirus deal, I think he using his power, not abusing it, but trying to show the Washingtonians his power, okay? And I don't mean to be a dick or a jerk when I say this, but we know that the coronavirus is serious. We all know that we need to do our social distancing. We know that we should be wearing our mask. We know this. We get it. But sometimes I feel, okay, these are not facts or fictional, that he trying to show people his guns and trying to enforce the laws, and that's his job, is to help enforce laws as well, and policies and bylaws and all that. So you can't knock him for that. But I do think that he's taking it a little too serious in the regards to power, not the coronavirus itself. That's not what I mean. He is taking it serious. We don't know what this truly is. We don't, okay? I'm talking about as American citizens. I'm not talking about what they have released to the public. It is called coronavirus. We know that. We know what it does. Well, we don't know exactly. Basically what I'm trying to say, we only know what they released to us. We don't know if this is a terrorist attack. We don't know if it's an inside job from our government. We don't know if it's like I said, a terrorist attack. And even if it was a terrorist attack, the government, the FBI, all that, CIA, they would know about it before we would know about it. Period, plain and simple. And they will release accordingly how they want to release stuff, okay? And same thing about Jesus Christ and God, okay? It wouldn't surprise me if the government have Jesus' body. I mean, nothing is impossible in these days, okay? And let me echo and make my point. So if we found, for example, if they released Jesus Christ's body, that would prove that Jesus exists, set in stone, if they released his body, right? But we already know that Jesus exists, okay? We know Jesus exists because there's a history on it, and the Bible. We know the Bible. We don't know if the Bible is 150% real. We know that we only know what we're told. Okay. Now, with that being said, God. Okay. Now this is completely different. God is in us. Okay, in our hearts, in the Holy Spirit. Okay. When you have those instincts to ought to do something, whether that's cheat on your wife or cheat on a test or do something morally wrong, and you get that instinct, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, that's God, okay? So we know that we have God in our hearts no matter what. I don't care what anybody says, God exists, okay? But like I said, it wouldn't surprise me. Let me get my point. So if they release Jesus' body, the whole world would go through the people that follow God and love God, they would be happily joyful and crazy for God, which is a good thing. But the people that don't believe in God, it might cause a controversy or a problem, because they want us to free will believe the beliefs we want to believe in. And if we had something set in stone that God exactly exists, or he came from the skies and told us to settle down from this Black Lives Matter movement, not Black Lives Matter movement, racism and placism and bad things that are happening on the earth, if he screamed from the skies and told us to settle down and gave us a warning, that would be another proof that God exists. And I think that would be something that God should think about doing, to be honest with you, to give us heads up that we need to settle down. We need to prepare. This, we are in the end of times. There's so many things that has happened, and from the Bible's warnings and people talking about it, and pastors and churches and warnings that, God is coming soon in his second coming. And people laugh about it, but they better not laugh about it, because they're going to be shocked when it actually happens. Just like a UFO. If a UFO landed right here in the middle of wherever, everybody's going to freak out. And but you know what, like I said, and this is a completely different subject, we know that UFOs exist, okay? And I'm sure the government has that. But back what I was trying to say, power, okay? Jay Inslee wants to show his guns. He wants to go over the government and go over what they say and enforce his own agenda, okay? You can't do that, The federal government and the government runs the show, not Jay Inslee. The Bible says to respect the land of the law, and you can't be above the law. And that's my 2 cents. You can't be above the law at all, okay? They vote these laws in. It sucks. Some of the law sucks. Sometimes people move the goalposts when the laws are on them. Lawyers, judges, doctors, government. And when something happens to their kid, then they change the laws because they can do that, which is wrong, okay? We know that. So, going back to God, we need to be ready. We need to continue to do our things and our daily activities, run our daily lives, keep everything the same, do our social distancing. You have to understand that this coronavirus is here to stay. And I'm not speaking negative. I'm not being a jerk. I'm not being negative in any way, shape, or form. I think this coronavirus is here to stay. I think social distancing is here to stay. I think wearing these masks are here to stay into the end of times. I think, and I'm not saying the end of times are going to be tomorrow or next week. It could be another 50 years. We don't know. We have no idea how long it could be. But I can assure you that people are going to be wearing their masks for at least 10 or 15 years from now, if this world is still here, okay? And what I mean by still here, meaning that if we don't have a World War III or a crazy Civil War or something crazy like that, I think these masks, people are going to be wearing masks, even if they get an antidote and a cure for coronavirus. I believe that they're still going to be wearing masks no matter what. And like I said before, and I'll say it again, if you could smell a cigarette through a mask or a foul odor through a mask, don't you think the coronavirus can get through that mask as well? Even though the CDC says it helps prevent the coronavirus from spreading through the mask. I mean, your chances are better with a mask than not having a mask, but I don't know what the numbers on the statistic or the percentages in regards to how safe it is to wear a mask versus not wearing a mask. But common sense, and you would think that a mask would be better than nothing, okay? But I think we need to add, if you're going to wear a mask, okay, you're going to enforce that and you're going to police that, I think you should do mandatory gloves as well, latex free or latex gloves, because people are allergic to latex, or you don't have to wear latex gloves or latex free gloves. You could wear possibly regular gloves, just something to protect your hands as well. Because if the coronavirus is spreading through sneezing and bodily fluids and things of that nature, and possibly airborne, you would think that gloves would help the spread of coronavirus as well. People work with their hands, people pass stuff through their hands, okay? You pass things through hands more than you know. Okay, yeah, you're not going to breathe on somebody and be upright on somebody and breathe in their face. You can police that, and you can stop somebody from being within 3 feet or 2 feet, but when you hand somebody something, a flyer, or you hand somebody something, or like I said, you're working with your hands at work, or you're passing telzons in retail world, or you're on a cashier, or you're passing, stuff of that nature, it would make more sense if we had to protect ourselves in those regards to, wearing gloves. And so, they need to enforce that. If you're going to enforce the mask, you need to enforce the gloves as well, because that could be another way of passing it. And basically, I'm sure, if you're going to enforce the mask, you got to enforce gloves as well, and make it mandatory as well in the workplace to wear gloves. And if companies don't like that idea, you know, I think if you're in the retail business, for example, if you already, the company is providing the mask, they give you one mask. Some company give you one mask and one spare mask in case you break that one. I guess if you break that one, you have to buy a mask. And if you don't have the money to buy that mask, they send you home. But the companies should be providing gloves as well. Okay. There are so many people in this world that say that they would never do retail. They're one thing I've learned in my life is never ever say never, because you never know what's going to happen. Okay, you can never say never, because you never know what the future may bring you, good or bad. But I think that companies in the retail world and big corporate America, Fortune 500 companies, big corporations, if you're gonna run and put people's life in jeopardy on an everyday basis, because people need to pay their bills and feed themselves and get the supplies that they need, you have to provide them with the stuff. And now they're saying essential workers, but back where I was saying, there are so many people in this world that said that they would never work retail, and they're working retail now because they have to survive and get by. And I'm not knocking it or laughing from a distance. All you can do is pray from a distance for everybody. But we have to do it right, and the only way we're going to get through this is we have to get through this together. There's no more selfishness in any way, shape, or form in the sports world, the acting world, and in general. We have to get through this together. We might come to a time where we have to help our neighbors out, white, black, it doesn't matter whom you are. We have to help each other out, look over each other, and pray for one another, and help each other out, maybe with food or supplies if you have it to give, things of that nature. Okay? Goal is going to be, there's a lot of people getting pregnant during this quarantine times, people gaining a bunch of weight, including myself and other people out there. And that's, people are going to start having health problems and diabetes and pregnancies and things of that nature. Crimes are going to go up more. because people have nothing to do, or they don't have any money to pay their bills, or feed themselves or their children. Prostitution are at record high numbers. I mean, there's a lot of people that say they would never do that stuff that are doing it, because that's one thing. Prostitution, there's always going to be a market for it. I'm not endorsing it. I don't endorse it, but you got to do what you got to do to take care of yourself, and who am I to judge? I've done crazy things in my life. I can't judge somebody. Well, that's only God's job, to judge people. So people, we're going through some record history numbers in regards to this COVID-19, and it sucks. It really does suck. It sucks. It sucks really bad, But people are working retail, and now people are having respect for the retail world, but you also have to have respect for the medical field. I mean, these people are putting their lives on the line as well, as much as retail people. And when we get through this, and when we do get through it, whether it's a year from now, 6 months from now, or 10 years from now, they need to pay retail people and people in the medical field um, a a good number per hour in regards to risking their life, because now they're looking at retail people as, of course, essential workers. And people, I mean, you should start people in the retail world off, in my opinion, in this day's economy. I think the minimum in a retail world, you to pay per hour should be at least $20 an hour, especially with the record numbers of rent, how high rent is, and insurance and medical and things of that nature. And I think it's appropriate to, I mean, it's $20 an hour is not insulting. If owners and companies don't want to pay hazardous pay, $20 an hour is really not insulting at all, to put your life on the line. Making $13, $14 an hour in the retail world in this day and age, with the circumstances that are going on, is not worth it. But at the same time, you have to take care of yourself. So, with that being said, $20 an hour for the retail world. And if you're in the medical field, a nurse, or in the ER or in the hospital, you should be making at least $30 an hour, at least 30 to $35 an hour. There's no reason that those numbers are insulting. Retail companies, make billions and billions and billions of dollars in revenue, profit. And if it wasn't for the workers, and those numbers wouldn't be relevant. So asking for $20 an hour is not insulting at all, especially with the circumstances. $25 an hour is not insulting. As they're still gonna make billions, and they're still gonna make billions. Maybe not Fred Meyer or Safeway. Maybe not Fred Meyer, but Albertsons and Safeway are gonna make billions. And other big corporations bigger than that are gonna make more. So $20 to $23 an hour is not asking a lot. So when this is all over, I can see that there's a lot of work to be done in that regards. There should be a national meeting for the retail world and the medical and in the medical job field, and law enforcement. They need proper training. Officers need body cams. Every officer should be mandatory to wear body cams. They should go through a real psychological. And what I mean by that, it's to be a correction officer and a police officer, you pretty much have to do the same thing. But I think all police officers, correctional officers, and bounty hunters and detective law enforcement investigators, private armed and unarmed private investigators, and people that work for Loomis Fargo and the Fargo companies. I think all of them should have CAT scans with and without contrast. That should be one of the requirements to get in law enforcement and the departments of corrections and all that. All of them should have mandatory CAT scans to see, blood test, hair follicles, and yeah, they're gonna find out when they done cocaine or if they ever been a pill popper or things of that nature. But then you'll be able to make a decision based on their recovery. I'm not saying because they were an addict 20 years ago that should, disclude them from being in the job. No, but if a person has been, let's just say an officer, he meets all the criteria, he meet all the requirements to be an officer, okay? But let's say 2 years ago he was doing heroin, okay? Would you really want a police officer in the academy and on your streets in your neighborhood with your brother, your sister, your mother, and all these people in the whole wide world? Would you want him carrying a weapon, okay? A weapon, okay, and power, okay? A weapon and power, and he's done heroin 2 years ago or a year ago, okay? Because I know plenty of people in the correctional officer facilities and in law enforcement that are drug addicts right now and have been before, and they're in there, okay? So they need to make some type of requirement in regards to employment, but have a standard, okay? Have a standard, meaning that they have to be clean for at least 5 years, or they haven't touched anything for 5 years. They have to take a lie detector test. So if they said that they did cocaine 5 years ago, they have to pass a lie detector test as well that meets the questions with the lie detector test, if that makes sense. So maybe the number is 5 years. You can't, you haven't committed a crime for 5 years. You haven't sold drugs for 5 years. You haven't done, something like that. Something, and then have a lie detector test to back up the questions that the requirements expectations are. But that's my 2 cents and my episode of how life and news is, and things like that. I will continue to make more videos like I always do, but that's my 2 cents. Some people may agree with me, some people may not agree with me, but that's my 2 cents, and that's the way I feel, and that's, I'm burning, I am burning inside. Like Condition Red. So, and I'm talking about for all candidates. Do the test that they do now, but you add a CAT scan with and without contrast, and you take the hair follicles and you see how long they've done drugs, pills, then morphine, fentanyl, Vicodin, Percocet. Do they have justification? And do they have prescriptions for it? They have to dig in their medical field or their medical stuff. Have they ever been diagnosed with mental illness? Have they ever been on pills for bipolar or depression? How long were they on it? Did they get counseling for it? Have they had any issues in the times that they were off? Everything. They need to do everything. Pull their medical files. Lie detector test. CAT scans with and without, and hair follicles, and a standard policy on candidates. Maybe if they are an addict or a former addict, whatever, they're a former addict and they've been clean for 5 years, maybe they have to be watched, you know. They have a special file that they have to watch that person, or, there's 10 candidates that have been clean for 5 years. They're on watch, mandatory drug tests, surprise mandatory drug tests, hair follicles, not just urine. Well, you can do urine, you can do hair follicle, urine, skin, whatever you have to do, okay? You already know what position you're in, of power. You know what you got to do, the job requirements, and you have to have it listed. You sign it so they know that that you're not being targeted and negative targeted, and things like that. That's just how it is. Have more police explore programs where kids can do it when they're 18 and properly train them and get them groomed to be officers when they're 21. Get more, invest in the explore program more. Educate kids. Have cops go to schools and talk about this. Make this a national holiday where cops go out and talk to kids about not being afraid of being around police officers. Cops need to be more. Get the DARE program back.